name's Abby, and I'm a user experience researcher at Google working on the Google Docs editors team. So I'll be getting us started out this morning, but I'll also be joined later on the stage by my colleagues, Sean and Birkan. Now, our team's normally based in New York City, but we're so excited to be here at Next this morning to talk to you a little bit more about Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and more specifically, how those tools better enable teams to achieve their goals and collaborate more effectively throughout critical workflows beyond just real-time co-editing. So some of the features we're going to talk about today are a staple of Google Docs editors and G Suite. However, we'll also be sharing a few details about new features, so keep your eyes open for those. Before we get started, I want to just take a second to ask a few questions of you here in the audience and get to know a little bit more about you. So with a quick show of hands, can you tell me who already uses G Suite and the Google Docs editors at work? Awesome, a lot of you, that's great. And who here uses a different productivity suite? Okay, so a few of you. And is there a doctor in the room, just in case? Just kidding, just kidding. I still have a long way to go, unfortunately, so there won't be any surprises announced from me on stage today. But for those of you who are already using the Google Docs editors, this will be a great preview of some new and upcoming functionality that we're going to be introducing that'll help you to be even more productive. And for those of you who are new to G Suite and the Google Docs editors, this will be a great way for us to show you how the Google Docs editors, specifically Docs, Sheets, and Slides, can help transform the way that your company works. There we go. But before we go any further, our legal counsel asked us to show you this disclaimer, so feel free to take a few seconds to read through it, and then we'll move on. But have no fear, this session is also recorded, so if you're really dying to read through it, you can also go back after the fact and take a more close look. So in my time as a researcher at Google and on the Docs editors team, I've heard the following situation described over and over and over again. And I'm sure we're all way too familiar with this type of legacy workflow where you finish working on a document, you share that document with some of your collaborators, some of your colleagues, and then they add in their own comments, they add in their own feedback into their own versions, and then they email those versions back to you. Once you get those versions back, you take a bunch of time to manually consolidate all of their edits and comments back into your own version. Once your version's ready, you send it on to your approver. Your approver has their own process and people that they might share it with who add in their own comments and feedback, and so on and so on and so on. Then a bunch of rounds later, you finally have a final document. And I'm sure you've probably all seen a file name that looks a little something like this, right? Hard to figure out what's going on there, but unfortunately, this process is really far from ideal. Each collaborator has to take a significant amount of time making sure that they're working in the correct version, possibly checking in and checking out the right version, reconciling all those changes coming from bunches of different communication channels, whether it be email, in-person meetings, or chat. And there's really not a great way for you to consolidate all of those edits and drafts that are spread across teams inside and outside of your company. So to make matters worse, the inefficiency of this process has a negative ripple effect across organizations. This process not only wastes time, but it holds up the entire team. There's an opportunity cost with each stumble, which breaks the flow of productivity for everyone involved. It's both really frustrating for our users, and it absolutely kills collaboration and innovation. But we think there's a better way to collaborate: the Google Docs editors. So unlike legacy or hybrid solutions, Google Docs is born in the cloud. And this means that each Google Doc exists as a link, not a file. Each document persists as a single source of truth that's securely stored in the cloud. Each document unlocks workflows that wouldn't be possible with other architectures. So for example, multiple collaborators can make simultaneous edits, and you can always be confident that you're viewing the latest and greatest version of a document. Access and permissions are centrally managed with a clear audit trail that ensures nothing is ever lost. And usage patterns can be leveraged to improve workflows with machine intelligence. So from conversations we've had with our users, we know that G Suite customers are already benefiting from the collaboration capabilities that we offer. The Nielsen Company, who's long used G Suite and Google Docs editors to keep its position as one of the world's most well-known and respected marketing research firms, and they have operations in over 100 different companies, has been using us forever. Much like the workflow that we described earlier, teams at Nielsen were creating presentations and having to send numerous versions back and forth, and then it was someone's job to consolidate and clean up all the changes that had been made, and this was a really lengthy and error-prone process. But once Nielsen started to create their slide presentations in slides, they were really excited that they could do this simultaneously. They could see changes happening in real time, avoid unnecessary errors, and save a significant amount of time throughout the entire process. However, real-time collaboration is really only powerful if people actually adopt it. So if you have some people working on desktop apps and some people working in cloud apps, it just really doesn't work. In Google Docs editors, everyone's on the same application, the same version, so seamless collaboration is the default. In fact, over 76% of time spent in doc sheets and slides is on collaborative work. And that really means multiple people being able to work together towards their shared goals. But what exactly are the Google Docs editors users doing? Well, we know that documents, spreadsheets, and presentations are some of the most collaborative artifacts in the workplace. And we've spent a lot of time listening really closely to our users to better understand how they collaborate to create these artifacts. And it all comes down to these top activities. So editing a document together, whether in real time or asynchronously, seeing changes that have been made to a document or file, giving and receiving feedback to and from your collaborators, assigning and being able to complete tasks, and then all of this is really made possible by being able to share your documents with confidence. As a Google Docs team, we're really invested in understanding our users so that we can provide them with the right tools to complete their most important collaborative activities. And this is also how we've framed the rest of the session today. So now I'm happy to invite my colleague Sean up to the stage to talk to you a little bit more about how the Google Docs editors team can improve these critical tasks.
Thanks, Abby. So my name is Sean Wen. I'm a UX designer on the Docs, Sheets, and Slides team. And just as a quick note, we will be saying the word document a lot during this session. And when we say that, it's a catch-all term to refer to all three artifacts: documents, spreadsheets, and presentations. We'll also be saying Google Docs a lot, and that refers to the entire suite of Docs, Sheets, and Slides. Okay, so editing a document together. This is one of the most collaborative activities in the workplace. So let's take a look at how Google Docs can facilitate this process. So as Abby said earlier, Google Docs is all about having one version of a document. And this makes it easy to collaborate faster, it reduces complexity, and allows for true real-time collaboration like this. It allows you and your team members to work in parallel faster than ever before. No more having to waste time to wait for the right version of the document to be emailed to you. No more having to check in and check out files. However, in this world where everyone works remotely and across time zones, it can be hard to collaborate in real time. And so let's look at ways, so as the title of our session suggests, let's look at ways to go beyond real-time collaboration. So editing a document is really easy when everyone is using Google Docs, right? But sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you need to collaborate with potentially external stakeholders that may be using legacy tools. And so in those cases, compatibility from one tool to the next is just as important as native editing in Docs. And so earlier in the next conference, we announced the new Office editing experience. And so now you can use this experience, you can open an Office file directly in Docs. You can seamlessly make your edits. You can benefit from all the collaboration features that Docs offers. And then once you're done, all those changes will be reflected in the Office document, instead of having to download and upload files over and over again. So this really helps streamline the collaboration process when you're working with someone who may be using legacy tools. Okay, so while Docs allows you to collaborate inside of one document, certain workflows still require you to work in separate documents. And this is especially true in legal use cases, such as contract negotiations, where collaboration can't always be fully transparent to the other party. And so it's very important to be able to work in separate documents, and at certain points, compare those documents and see the differences between the two so that you can stay on top of these changes. And so today we're very happy to announce a brand new feature in Google Docs. It's called Compare Documents, and as the name suggests, it allows you to take two Google documents and compare them. And the comparison will then highlight the differences between these two documents as suggested edits. And these suggested edits make it really easy to see what's changed and where, which is really important because sometimes even minute details have big implications. And so that's why it's imperative to stay on top of these changes. Compare documents will be available to you in the coming months. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about another collaborative task called seeing changes in a document. So we just covered seeing changes when you compare two separate documents. But as we know, the biggest advantage of cloud is to be collaborating inside of one document. So let's see how Docs facilitates that. So we've all been in a situation where we're working in a document, and while we're working on it, we have to go to a bunch of meetings, or we have to go on a vacation, or go to the next conference. When we come back, we know that things have changed. We know that our colleagues have made edits, but it's really hard to go in the document and visually scan where those changes are. Google Docs actually knows exactly when you last viewed the document, and it surfaces new changes to you through a feature called See New Changes. See New Changes tells you exactly when you last viewed the document, what and where those edits have happened, and who made them. And so this allows you to focus on the edits themselves and whoever you need to follow up with, rather than wasting time trying to figure out where those edits have happened in the document. And if you'd like to see beyond changes since you last viewed, version history gives you all the granular changes since the creation of the document. You might be thinking, well, I don't necessarily want everyone to see how my document has evolved over time. But don't worry, version history is only accessible to people that you give edit access to. So this means that if you give view-only or comment-only access to certain users, those users will not be able to see version history. So when you're in version history and you're going through these versions, it might still be hard to see the actual differences between one version and the previous version. And so by checking the Show Changes option, you're able to visually see what those differences are. So once those differences are pointed out to you, though, it still requires you to manually scroll through every single page. And this can get very cumbersome when the document is super long. So you can use the navigation tool to be able to jump from one edit to the next without having to manually scroll through the document. You can even give custom names to certain versions. This helps you get a nice historical record of your document's progress. And it also allows you to refer to these versions later, and you can also make copies of versions as well. If you're ever at a point where the current version of your document, you're no longer happy with it, don't worry, you can go to version history, you can go through past versions, you can see a version that you're happy with, and you can even turn back time and restore that version as the current version. And all this is possible thanks to the cloud-based nature of Google Docs, unlike legacy or hybrid solutions. So we just talked about version history, which is really good at giving you a holistic view of how your document has evolved over time. However, sometimes you just care about one particular edit and how that edit has evolved. This is especially true in spreadsheets with thousands of cells where you really just care about how one cell has changed. And so at Next, we're super excited to announce a new feature in Google Sheets that does exactly this. You can target a particular cell, and you can see all of the edit history within that cell. This is a huge productivity gain, because today, you need to go to version history, right, to sift through all the different holistic versions just to find how one edit has changed. This allows you to stay within the context of your live document and get all that information there. This feature will be available to you in the coming months as well. So far we've talked a lot about editing a document, but as we know, there are tons of other collaborative activities, such as simply viewing someone else's document, commenting, sharing documents. And so as a document owner or as an editor, you may want to see how your content is being consumed. Last year, we launched the activity dashboard, which allows you to see who's viewed your document and when. This is useful. Imagine a scenario where you share a document with your boss, and then a few days have passed, and you're kind of wondering, well, I haven't gotten any feedback yet. You can go to the activity dashboard, and within the viewer section, you can see that your boss simply just hasn't had the time to open your document yet. But don't worry. If you prefer, you can go to privacy settings and activity dashboard, and you can choose to opt out of this whole experience. Once you choose to opt out, all collaborative actions that you take will not be recorded or shown in activity dashboard. Another aspect of the dashboard is a section called viewer trend, and this provides you insights into the viewership of your content. These insights help you understand the impact and the influence of your work, and possibly how your work is being spread internally. And again, viewer trend also respects your privacy settings in case you've opted out. Okay, so today, we're thrilled to be growing Activity Dashboard even more with two brand new metrics. The first one is called Comment Trend. And Comment Trend visualizes the conversations in the document. It shows you the number of comments, suggestions, and replies that are happening on a daily basis. And this just helps you understand how conversations evolve as your document's progressing. For example, it could be useful in a case where if you see there's particularly active conversations going on at a certain time, that could mean that that's an important milestone in the document. And as a document owner, it's also important to keep track of how your documents are being shared, both from a privacy and an impact perspective. So we're happy to announce another new metric called sharing history. And this provides you granular visibility into how your document is being shared with others across the organization. You can see exactly who shared your document, but with whom, when, and the details of their access level. So with all four of these, viewers, viewer trend, the new comment trend, and the new sharing history, Activity Dashboard has really become the central place where document owners and editors can see how collaborators are engaging with their content. Giving and receiving feedback. This is a critical part of the collaboration experience. And so let's look at how docs can help you facilitate meaningful conversations about your content. Comments in docs allow you to give and receive both actionable and contextual feedback to and from collaborators. So if you're reading a document and you see something that you want to comment on, simply highlight it and add a comment. Your comment will be anchored to the content, and so people can see exactly what you're referring to. And while you're commenting, it might be useful to add people who may be relevant to the conversation. This is as easy as just putting their name or their email address as a reply to the comment. And when you do this, the recipient receives an email notification or a mobile push notification that tells them that they've been added into the document. By default, you're only subscribed to comment threads that either you've initiated or that you've been added into. But sometimes you really want to stay on top of the discussions that are going on in a particular document. And in those cases, you can go to comment notifications, and you can switch that to all. And what this effectively does is every time someone makes a comment or replies in a document, you will be notified of that. On the topic of notifications, we get a lot of notifications every day. And specifically with comment notifications, it may even require you to open the document, right? And then you have to refer to the context. You have to read the comment and then figure out exactly what you want to do, whether it's to reply or resolve. And so this context switching, right, from Gmail to Docs and Gmail to Docs, it's really cumbersome, especially if you get 20 or 30 comment notifications a day. 2 weeks ago, we announced dynamic email in Gmail. And this amazing feature makes it possible for you to interact with comments within the email itself. And so what this new experience does is it gives you the context of the comment, what the comment is referring to, and it allows you to take action in line, whether that's replying to the comment or resolving the comment, all within the email itself. You don't have to open any documents. This is a huge time saver, and it really helps minimize that context switching that I was talking about. We partnered very closely with the Gmail team to make this happen, and it's just an example of the synergy and the productivity gains between G Suite applications. Sometimes your feedback can be literal suggestions that's related to how the content is written. And in those cases, it might make sense to just show them exactly what you mean, as opposed to writing a comment. So with suggestions, you can edit naturally, but all your edits will appear as suggestions. And then other collaborators can then go in and choose to accept or reject your suggestions. And then once they accept it, that suggestion becomes a direct edit in the document. Suggestions can get a little out of hand, though, especially in legal use cases like redlining a contract. You can easily hit 100 suggestions or more. And so we have a feature called Review Suggested Edits, and this allows you to focus exclusively on the suggestions. You can use the navigation tool to skip through all of the comments. And you can even preview the document as if you've accepted or rejected all the suggestions. And then once you're happy, once you're ready, you can bulk accept or bulk reject those suggestions with one click. So at this time, I'd like to invite my colleague Birkan to the stage. He'll be talking to you guys about both assigning and completing tasks and sharing with confidence. Birkan.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean. According to the research by McKinsey Global Institute, employees spent about 20% of their time, almost an entire day, searching for details internally and tracking down colleagues for answers. If you think about it, this gets a little bit frustrating, especially when the document is full of ideas, requests, comments, making it harder to understand who is owning or who's responsible from what. Action items in Google Docs documents allow you to capture document context into a task, and then you can assign it to another collaborator, or you can even assign it to yourself. We also went one more step further to implement intelligence to detect when tasks are implied in your documents and automatically suggest you to convert them into action items. So for example, when you're taking notes in your weekly meeting with your team, Google Docs can understand when the task is implied in the document and then automatically suggest you to turn them into action items with a single click, just as easy as this one. And when you create the action item, it will also trigger an email or a mobile push notification, so it's going to be more actionable. In addition to the notifications, like the email notification or the mobile push notifications, there are also other ways to track your action items, your follow-ups. In Google Drive, you can filter the documents in a way that you can see all the files where you have an open action item assigned to you, or you have a pending suggestion in a document that you own. You can also click on that priority badge to quickly access your follow-ups in that given document, so that you can take action as easy as that. Getting approvals to your documents usually signals the very important final step of your document workflows. Earlier in the next conference this week, our colleagues from the Drive team announced document approvals. In Google Drive, you can request formal document approvals in your files or in Google Docs documents, and then this will trigger an approval flow. During the approval, the file will be locked, and you will be able to have a conversation with your approvers. And upon getting that important approval to your file, the file will remain as locked. And also, all the other collaborators will be able to see this, to understand this is a formally approved document. Requesting approvals on files in Google Drive as well as Google Docs documents will be available through the G Suite beta program later this quarter in June. We talked about all these great features, and our G Suite customers are already taking advantage of these great features. So for example, Salesforce is keeping its leadership position in the CRM industry and also expanding into new markets using these collaborative solutions. The core part of this is effective collaboration. They credit G Suite in terms of breaking barriers between their internal teams and external partners, making them feel like one single team, delivering greater impact. The ease of collaboration provided by Google Docs and Google Drive lets Salesforce teams work faster and more efficiently. Okay, we talked about all these powerful collaborative user journeys, but let's take a step back. All of this is actually possible if you can share your documents securely and safely. So let's take a look at those use cases as well. One of the key benefits of being cloud native is, of course, security. When you use a file-based legacy productivity tool, when you share a document, you're actually sharing files. So what this means is, when you share your document, your data is being shared with others with each copy of your file. And as you can imagine, like I've seen some nods in the audience, this carries a huge risk, right? As a cloud-native solution, Google Docs is different than legacy tools. When you share a Google Docs document, you're sharing links. You're not sharing files. So what this means is your data stays in the cloud. And when the data is in the cloud, you have much more control over your data, how it's being accessed by others. So in this case, Google Docs gives you 3 distinct levels of permission controls. One of them is viewer permission. It is exactly what it sounds like, right? The collaborator will only have the ability to view the document. This person will not be able to make comments, suggested edits, or make direct edits to the file. He or she can only view the document. On the other end, you have edit access. The moment you give edit access to another collaborator, this person can contribute to the document, make direct edits to the file, share it with others. It's all clear. However, Google Docs also provides another permission level, which is the comment access. So this is great because users with comment access can view the document, can make comments, can suggest edits, but they cannot make direct edits to the file. So you will have full control over the content of your document. So as I mentioned, when your data is in the cloud, changing permissions, revoking them, or readjusting them is very easy. So for example, let's take this issue, like let's say you shared the file with another person by mistake, and basically fixing this mistake is as easy as taking this person from the sharing dialog in Google Docs. Depending on the nature of the document, you may need to adjust your permissions later on. And Google Docs addresses this use case with access expirations. Permissions can be set to expire in 7 days, 30 days, or some arbitrary time in the future. So if you think about this use case where you're trying to put together a quarterly financial performance report in a spreadsheet in Google Sheets, you may need to share that file widely within the organization so that you can collect input from your internal stakeholders. They can make direct edits to the file. However, once you're getting close to the final version of your spreadsheet, you may want to readjust those access. You may want to take over those edit permissions so that your document, your internal spreadsheet, can stay as final. So in those type of use cases, you can benefit from the access expiration capabilities. And of course, there are some documents that are very sensitive. You don't want your collaborators to download them, to copy them, to print them, or to share it with other editors. And Google Docs allows you to do this in one click. As the document owner, you can go into the sharing dialog, and then you can enforce these rules so that the other editors cannot download the file or share it with others or make copies out of it. And this way, your data will stay in your control, and then it will stay in the cloud. And once all the data is in the cloud, data loss prevention in Google Drive makes it even easier for admins to manage their data. They can secure sensitive data in the cloud. They can control what content can be stored in the cloud. And also, they can protect users from accidentally sharing confidential information outside of the organization. And when you look at G Suite's DLP capabilities, it goes beyond the standard generic DLP capabilities available outside, making it easier for admins to control their data. So for example, you can set up easy-to-control configuration policies, and also we provide optical character recognition to make sure that we scan the content available in an image, helping admins to secure and enforce these type of policies. Last, but definitely not least, when you think about collaboration, external collaboration is as important as internal collaboration. And Google Drive and Google Docs teams are fully aware of that. Therefore, we've been hard at work improving this experience with external collaboration with users who may not have a Google account associated with their email addresses. So in this case, in December 2018, Google Drive team announced the PIN-verified visitor sharing to G Suite beta program. This way, you can collaborate with your key external stakeholders, such as lawyer at lawfirm.com or key partner at outlook.com, as if you're sharing files with another G Suite user. So in this example, as you see on the screen, we are sharing the file with Andrew at outlook.com. This person will receive an email notification with the link, as well as the PIN code to access this document. And before accessing the document, this user will have to enter this PIN code to verify the ownership of the email address, and then this user can access all the powerful collaboration and intelligent capabilities that we provide in Google Docs editors. This will streamline your external collaboration experiences. All right, so we highlighted some of the powerful collaboration features available in Google Docs that helps you and your teams achieve your goals and collaborate more effectively throughout critical collaboration user journeys. Just to recap, real-time collaboration in Google Docs, and now even in Office files, can help you and your teams move faster than ever before. Comments and suggestions can encourage conversations, encourage feedback sharing. Features like version history and see edit history of a cell can provide you granular visibility into what has changed in the file. Action items and approvals can help you move your document goals forward, get formal approvals to your documents. And of course, all this is possible through the powerful, simple, secure, and safe sharing capabilities with robust permission controls. Okay, we talked about a lot with Google Docs. But let's be honest, collaboration is actually not limited to the collaboration happening inside of a Google Docs document, right? If you think of this, there are face-to-face meetings, team messaging, video conferencing. These are all key part of your collaborative user journeys. So Google Docs is a part of G Suite. And with G Suite, you have access to famous and popular collaboration and communication tools such as Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Slides, and Drive, but it also allows you to access and have powerful, highly productive, high-fidelity video conferences with Hangouts Meet, secure team communication with Hangouts Chat, bringing the power of Google Search into your domain through Cloud Search, enterprise-grade telephony solutions with Google Voice, and also everything else that you need to secure and control your data available in your domain through administrative capabilities. With G Suite, this is the future. And we are helping our customers reimagine, reinvent the way they work. With secure and intuitive applications, it's very easy to go through a digital transformation in your organization. So this is all fantastic, but you may be having these questions. What does it mean? Like, what is the tangible financial impact of moving into G Suite? And that's a great question. Let's take a look at that as well. We recently commissioned with Forrester on a total economic impact of moving into G Suite. And this research, this study, found out that moving to G Suite generates a return on investment north of 300% over the course of 3 years. Forrester talked to our G Suite customers, and they found out that G Suite delivers four key value to our users, to our customers. Let's dive into those. First is revenue growth. Moving to G Suite improves sales productivity. And once you have a productive sales organization that is geographically dispersed around the world, you can also improve the revenue through improved customer experience. So G Suite can help you deliver revenue growth by improving the collaboration within your sales organizations. Second, improved IT cost savings. By reducing the on-tech tech support and also retiring local servers, retiring obsolete software licenses that might be underutilized within your employees, G Suite can help you save significant IT costs. And third, we talked about the collaboration features in our session today, of course, is the employee efficiency. With all those powerful features available in G Suite, employees can streamline their workflows, leading to time savings that are equivalent to a whole month every year. This is a significant time saving if you think about it. And fourth, risk mitigation. Our customers are able to reduce the risk of a data breach thanks to the G Suite's phishing and malware protection, detecting these potential threats proactively. And with all these great impact numbers, I would like to wrap up our session today. And we are looking forward, we are very excited for you and your teams to join us in this exciting journey. Thank you so much.